What I'm going to talk about today is a third pilot study that a group of us have conducted on the consciousness field effects, the detection of non-local consciousness. These are preliminary data. We're still number crunching, but wanted to bring these results to you for discussion and for information. And first of all, I'd like to go through some of the protocols for the study to show you how we set this up. And this was a double-blind study. We did this with, we had no funding for this study, so we felt it was important enough that we would go ahead and carry out this study using volunteers and professionals donating their time and their expertise to complete this study. As you can see, this controlled study examined the role of human consciousness and questions regarding its nature. There's been speculation that human consciousness can become non-local, that is not confined to the physical body, and that non-local consciousness might be detectable using sophisticated measurement equipment. People who'd been doing research on this included the Pear Laboratory at Princeton University, who have accumulated a considerable database which demonstrates that human subjects are able to affect the mean output of a true random number generator, and are also called an REG, even when that effort's made from a distant location. In this study, a random number generator was run during times that subjects, remote viewers, were attempting to visit a remote target in order to detect any possible changes in the environment. The study was run double-blind, that is, the investigator did not know when subjects were visiting the target, and the subjects were unaware of the detection equipment. Also, the experimenter was blind to the content of the target envelopes. They were compiled by a third party. Another topic of relevance to this study is remote viewing. Remote viewing can be defined as the trained ability to perceive information about distant events, objects, or people that are shielded by distance and even time from perception by the usual five senses. There is a commonly held belief among remote viewing trainers that a viewer's consciousness does not travel to the target location, but receives information through some other, as yet unknown channel. This study examines a hypothesis that a viewer's non-local consciousness could be detected and measured at a target location. A secondary benefit of the study was the evaluation of several different remote viewing methods. Prior studies using a portable random event generator, REG, provided by Pear and Pear software and protocols, 2 pilot studies had already been run with promising results. In these studies, the first one was of 8 trained remote viewers who were set up to run during a particular time period on a particular day, and envelopes were placed in the proximity of the REG. They didn't know that the REG was running, but their job was to remote view the target in the envelope. 4 of the viewers forgot to view, so they provided us with a natural control group. And among the 4 that did do their study, they got some interesting results. 2 of them were they significantly deviated the REG away from chance expectation. And of 2 others, 2 of the viewers, they told us that they started late. And when you actually looked at their trace, their result started about halfway through the trace. But these were just anecdotal results. We really couldn't analyze them. Studies to detect non-local consciousness have been conducted since the 1970s with varying rates of success. OSIS, 1977 at the ASPR, reported how he advertised for subjects who could have OBEs to travel mentally to the society, where they could be engaged in various detection experiments. Alex Tanis, a psychic, was found to be able to initiate voluntary OBEs to locate target rooms at the Society, and there he was successful at perceiving objects placed there. He saw his traveling consciousness as a ball of light, which was small and able to travel to distant locations at will. This ball of consciousness was detected by extremely sensitive light detection equipment that was set up by Dr. Richard Dobrin of the Energy Research Group in New York. OSIS also reported that Tanis was seen by a psychic in the target room at the ASPR. So there is some precedence to this study. Remote viewing, or RV, is a human information processing capability. A little bit about what we're studying. That pertains to the ability of certain trained individuals to access and describe by means of mental processes information sources blocked from ordinary perception. And we have been going over some of the definitions this weekend. For this study, I used the definition written about by Puthoff and Targan, the first documented mention of remote viewing, which was an IEEE paper published in 1976, where they defined remote viewing as follows. As observed in the laboratory, the basic phenomenon appears to cover a range of subjective experiences, variously referred to in the literature as autoscopy, as exteriorization or dissociation, simply clairvoyance, traveling clairvoyance or out-of-body experience, astral projection, and we chose the term remote viewing as a neutral descriptive term, free from prior associations and bias as to mechanisms. This was prior to the development of controlled remote viewing. Has anybody looked at non-local consciousness and tried to come up with any explanations in the past? Researchers such as Robert John and Brenda Dunn at Princeton suggest that the effects of human consciousness can be conceived in terms of an exchange of energy or information, which involves consciousness in a manner not currently explicable in scientific terms. This exchange involves measuring the possible influence of consciousness on the independent operation of a device known as a random number generator, which is the device that I used in my study. This was a device on loan from Princeton, a small standalone unit, as big as a small shoebox, that was placed in the room close to the proximity of the targets. I'll let you read a little bit about field reg. These are some studies that Princeton is now conducting, looking at the effects of group consciousness on the REG. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because I have a lot of data to cover here. How they define their group consciousness experiments are that strong degrees of intellectual cohesiveness, shared emotion, or other coherent qualities of the group tend to correlate with the statistically unusual deviations from theoretical expectations in field reg sequences. Basically, what they're doing is having the REG run when groups are being conducted, such as intellectually stimulating discussions, emotionally charged events. And what they find is, instead of a chance expectation from the device where you would find an effect going along the middle of the expected chance line, it tends to veer away in one of two directions away from chance. And so this is a continuation of this, seeing if consciousness in some way, when a viewer is doing their target, whether they can affect an REG. And what kind of effects would there be if something like this was accepted? This kind of work is gradually being accepted. It's still taboo in the orthodox scientific establishments. And according to Adams, 1991, the effort to embrace the elementary assumptions, findings, and conclusions that underlie and constitute the idea of consciousness would necessarily lead to new explanations that drive social change. So he sees the acceptance of some of this type of research and these type of findings might lead to some major social changes, and perhaps that time has come. I'm going to take you through a little bit of the protocol. There's been some criticism that in the remote viewing field there are no double-blind studies performed. So this is an effort, a beginning, to correct this criticism that there are no double-blind studies. Our primary objective, one of the main questions asked of the remote viewing phenomena, has been whether some aspect of human consciousness actually leaves the body, or whether remote viewers are processing information within some internally generated or imaginal world. If some aspect of consciousness does travel to the target site, can it be detected? There's a huge body of literature debating the question of non-local consciousness and its possible detection. The primary question asked of this study was whether non-local consciousness could be detected by certain random systems, specifically a random number generator. The hypothesis was proposed that non-local consciousness of viewers attempting to access information from a hidden target at the site could be detected with the use of such an REG system. Our secondary objective was that there is dissension within the remote viewing community over which method of remote viewing is more valid. First tier remote viewers who were trained with the Ingo Swann controlled or coordinate remote viewing CRV method claim that their method is more authentic. Second tier trainers trained by first tier trainers claim that their improved methods greatly add to the quality of information accessed by the viewer. Third and fourth tier viewers and trainers also promote their methods as enhanced in some way. The secondary objective of this study was to objectively assess these claims. The hypothesis was proposed that each of the remote viewing training groups was equal to each other in accessing hidden target information. Here is a description of the equipment that was used in the study. Before leaving PAIR, it was extensively calibrated, and it was also calibrated in my laboratory. We also did a series of 17 calibration trials during the duration of the 2 pilot series, and these were ongoing during the data collection of the third pilot. We used software provided by the PAIR laboratory, and we also used SPSS, which is a statistical package used by professionals within the social sciences. The 2 pilot studies, as I'd already described, were carried out 2 years ago and were used to test the hardware, software, and protocols for the study. 17 subjects in all were run through the pilot protocols. Subjects were distant from the target destination, which was in Las Vegas, Nevada, by between a few hundred to a few thousand miles. The closest was Phoenix, Arizona, the farthest in the UK. It was found that the subjects that completed the first pilot sessions did better than the second pilot. The only difference between the first and second sets of subjects was that the first set contained all trained remote viewers. That decided us to use trained remote viewers for the current study. Okay. Procedures. As I said, trained remote viewers were used in the current study, and they were recruited by a third party from the half dozen or so schools that teach remote viewing in the United States. The subjects were instructed that the study would be evaluating aspects of remote viewing effectiveness. They were blind to the primary nature of the study, i.e. the detection of non-local consciousness. Subjects were instructed to remote view a picture target that was in a sealed envelope at the target location in my office. A pool of 100 targets was chosen and placed in a series of sealed and numbered envelopes by another neutral third party. Prior to the collection of the data, subjects completed a consent form indicating which remote viewing method they were trained in, CRV, TRV, ERV, SRV, etc. Who trained them, the dates of training, and the level achieved, either basic, intermediate, advanced, teacher training, etc. Gender and personal information, such as name and address and contact information, was collected. Participants also completed an absorption scale. The absorption scale measures the degree or the trait of being able to be immersed in an activity. So if you're the type of person who can be completely immersed in a movie to the point of feeling that you're there with the characters, you become one of the characters, you would rate high on the absorption scale. We also asked about laterality measures, handedness, footedness, eyedness, and earedness, and subjects completed scales for those measures. Subjects were also asked how many targets they had completed to date, including their training targets, and when their last session was completed. Following the remote viewing of the target, the neutral third party contacted the remote viewer to ascertain that they'd completed the viewing. The viewer then emailed, faxed, or mailed their session summary, consisting of a written account of their perceptions to a third neutral person for scoring, and we added a fourth neutral person they were trained in scoring. So there were 2 scorers. This summary was then compared to the picture target by one of 2 trained scorers. Scoring was according to a method that's been developed by PSI, Lynn Buchanan's group, one of the remote viewing training schools. This method computes the number of elements in the summary that match the target and scores them yes, no, or questionable. The percentage of correct correspondences are then computed. The scoring was carried out by the 2 neutral persons who had knowledge of and practice in the PSI scoring method. According to remote viewing protocol, the subjects were blind to the target, and so they were provided with feedback. A copy of the picture target was then emailed, faxed, or mailed to them, and their remote viewing score was not provided but retained for study purposes. As each subject completed their viewing and their session scored, the third party who had the responsibility of arranging the sessions supplied a list of session dates and times to the experimenter, and these were then entered into the SPSS database. Each day, for 19 days, the REG was run continuously. This is the REG phase of the study. And we actually had it was a longer study, but this is the REG phase. Each day for 19 days, the REG was run continuously in the background when viewers were remote viewing. There were 5 days when computer malfunctions or electrical problems caused the computer to be down. The field REG program was run for time periods of 24 hours, allowing for pre- and post-calibration periods, and 1 remote viewing session per day. So 1 viewer, 1 target each day. A total of 25 subjects were run. 35 initially expressed interest, but for one reason or another could not participate. The experimenter was blind to the dates and times that the viewers were individually accessing the target data. The neutral person who had the responsibility of contacting the subjects and setting up dates and times for their experimental session also emailed subjects prior to their sessions to remind them. I found this in the past to be very important, that viewers needed to be reminded to do their session because life is busy. Each day, a random number was generated, 1 to 100 by the neutral person, and the subject was notified and the corresponding target placed in close proximity to the REG and the experimental office for the duration of each session. So the subject would have a subject number, they would have the date and time of their session, and the target number, that would constitute their coordinate. So subjects were informed of this target number, and combined with their subject number and date, formed the basis for their session coordinate and data identification number. During the 19 days of REG data collection, 7 subjects chose to remote view during those days, and I had no idea at the time which those were. The experimenter was blind to the fact that a viewer was in operation during those days. The collection of REG data continued after the 19 days until all 25 subjects had been run through the protocol. And here are some of the studies that formed the background or basis for this study. Okay, I'm sure you're interested in some of the results. Who were the subjects? They were guaranteed anonymity. All personal data has been excluded from the data, and we're just talking in terms of groups here. So who were the subjects in age? They ranged between 20 and 66 years of age, with a mean age of 46. So it was a fair range of age. Gender, 13 males and 12 females, self-selected. So this was a pretty balanced study. Very often you will have a study where the subjects are self-selected, that you might have a bias in the range of male or female. But in this case, we had fairly equal numbers of males and females. Level of training. We had 11 basic students, 3 intermediate, 8 advanced, and 3 instruction level. These included some of the people who'd been trained by the first tier trainers. Which schools participated? 40% came from PSI, 28% from RVIS, 12% were ex-military RVers, and then the remainder were from other schools of remote viewing. 5 types of remote viewing were covered by the subjects. There were 18 subjects who had trained in CRV, 2 in ERV, 3 in TRV, 1 Hawaiian group trained, and 1 who used ERV and CRV combined. We asked them how many sessions they completed before they came to the study. The results of this were skewed by 2 viewers who reported they had done thousands. So what I did was I put a cutoff point of 2,000 in the database, and this skewed the data. So we had an average of 243, which was an unrealistic number because this was skewed by the 2 who had reported having done thousands of targets. We had 1 person who said they were unsure. The maximum was 2,000, and the mode was 20 sessions.
Did you have a 5%?
Sorry?
Did you have like 5%
True.
average?
No, these are just basic numbers. Distance from the target. Viewers were from all over the world, basically. The closest was 63 miles in Arizona. And the furthest were in Australia and the UK, who were 9,500 miles away. The US distances were computed by zip distance, a zip code distance. In RV results, the duration of the sessions that the students participated in or the subjects participated in, they took between a minimum of 22 minutes to complete their targets and a maximum of 226 minutes, with a mean of about 66 minutes, which is about the average, about an hour is an average for RV target. They were also asked when their last session was. 4 said that they had done a session within that week. 5 said within this month. 12 said that they had done a session within 3 months, and 4 said they had done sessions within the last 6 months. We asked about handedness, and one of the reports was initially self-reported handedness. 21 said that they were right-handed, 3 left-handed, and 1 mixed-handed. We asked them if they worked with a monitor. 6 had worked with a monitor, 19 worked solo sessions. We also had them do some paper and pencil handedness and other laterality measures. And we didn't tabulate this, we didn't do any stats on this because of the small number of subjects. But what we did find was that their handedness on the test tallied with the results that they self-reported. With earedness, that is, which ear they preferred to listen with, there was a bias towards left-earedness within the group. We asked them about eyedness, which eye they preferred, perhaps to look through a camera or a keyhole, and they tended towards left-eyedness. In the population, there's a trend towards right-eyedness and right-earedness. And in footedness, there was a trend towards, was divided fairly equally between people who preferred to kick a ball or open a pedal can with their left or right foot. The RV scores were very interesting. I used, as I mentioned, PSI scoring method, which is it's an objective method. It's not been fully validated scientifically yet. Hopefully this study will, or future studies will constitute some validity for this scoring method. It takes various categories of the data and asks, is this data present in the target? Is it not present, or is it questionable? And from that, you can compute a percentage score. How did the subjects score? They scored in a range from achieving 6% accurate information from the targets to 100%. There was one person that scored 100%. The mean was 63% correct information from the targets. Now, we would need to do further statistical measures, perhaps something called a Monte Carlo evaluation, which we're not set up to do at the moment, to see whether this was significant. But in terms of accessing information from a target, 63% correct information over all the subjects is pretty good. This is the interesting one. 10 subjects scored 80% correct information from the target and above, which is very significant. I looked at some correlations before I came, because there was still number crunching. We looked at all of the measures except for the laterality measures, and there were some correlations. RV score and duration of target session duration. There was a trend towards shorter target durations, the people who took less time to do their target achieving a better score. We also looked at the RV score and the number of sessions, and that was very significant, but then we had the two subjects who said that they had done 2,000 and more sessions, so this was an unreasonable and it was not a meaningful statistic because it was skewed by those two end measures. Also, RV scores and the last session that the subjects had completed. But again, the number of subjects wasn't, the database is not large enough for any meaningful evaluation of that score. All other correlations are non-significant regarding age, gender, the Telegon test, and the distance from the target. There were no correlations with success on the target. Laterality scores we did not evaluate because of they were not meaningful because of the small database. What we really need is a much larger database with a lot more subjects. With the REG results, these were inconclusive, I'm sorry to report, and the analysis is as yet incomplete. The people who chose to remote view on that date produced data that was not distinguishable overall from the control data. But there were individuals within the test data that exceeded chance. So there were some subjects that exceeded chance, but overall they didn't exceed chance. However, the degree of success that they achieved could also be seen in some days, some trials for days, where there was no remote viewer accessing the target. And the conclusions from this was, we could conclude that the results had disappeared and disappeared from the pilots, differed from the pilot studies due to the double-blind conditions of the study. It could be that once we made this a double-blind, triple-blind study, that the effect was no longer there. That's one conclusion. Second is that the device itself may have developed a bias, and this can be seen a little in the calibration data. The device does seem to have developed a low going trend, and this may, in fact, have affected this study. We could say that perhaps this device is not susceptible to operator influence, and so we would need to perhaps repeat this study with another device. This is a different population from the pilot studies. And this also might be due to something called the serial position effect, where when you're carrying out an effort, very often your first effort is very successful, and your second effort and third effort go in the opposite direction. So you may have initial success and then 2 failures. That could account for this. What could be recommended for the future is that because of the small number of subjects in this study, that we perhaps perform another study with a greater number of subjects and perhaps with a different device to see if we can get an effect. We need to have a consistent period of time for the subjects to be carrying out their remote viewing. As I told you before, the duration of the sessions differed greatly, from about 22 minutes up to several hours. So we need to have a very standard time set for the remote viewers to operate. And then to perhaps have a standard protocol, have all CRVers rather than some ERVers and people operating from different protocols to standardize our results. Now finally, I'd like to leave you with some of the targets that the viewers, some of the sessions that the viewers did for their targets. As I mentioned, 10 of them achieved 80% or greater correct information from the target. I'm going to show you 3 examples here. And all of the sessions have been copied, and they are available in a book. They will be available tonight here at the speaker's reception for you to look through, and they will be available here all day tomorrow. You can see all 25 sessions, complete sessions, with their picture target. They will be available for you to look at. With this first viewer, it said that there was a life form in a confined area, activity being watched by people, and it was basically a peaceful and they said not very colorful. I think it's colorful, but they said not very colorful, a very tranquil scene. So if we could put up the target. There was a life form there at the target. Okay, next one. In the second one, the viewer said the target is land with a man-made life, water, and motion. The land appears to have a gravelly green area with, this is handwriting here, with paving of some sort. In this scene is a body of water, very deep, very blue. There is a continuation that is white, very tall. There's also construction that is material-like, also white. So there is they thought there was a fat, jolly male energy with frizzy static shocked, like brown hair, weaving a brown-black material, also white. There is an electrical energy in the environment, and constantly, I can't read the last word. Arcing. Okay. So if you can remember that description. This was the target. And then our last example, you can read this, the site is outside, predominant sensory data is gray, blue, green, dim, dark, quiet, cool, fresh smells. The dimensions of the site are wide, open, flat, tall, round, angular, massive. There is motion at the site. Site is predominantly natural, marked by a single big something. Something appears to be big, tall, round, perhaps even moving, motion, spinning, rotating. That something is also being represented in sessions as hemispherical. The motion may merely be represented around the object. There does appear to be a substantial amount of water at the site. There is some man-made element at the site, and there are 2 identified life forms, but they are not important enough to warrant attention, and I am not 100% sure they're people. Secondary colors are yellow, white, orange. The something is either a large building with a circular element like a stadium, or is indeed a mountain or volcano. I can't discount either the sun or other large natural feature. Interesting key descriptors include flashing and tropical. And here they list a few other few examples of the man-made. This was a drawing that they made, and they probed the areas. A was a containment system for water with a questionable wall. B was shallow water, and C, a man-made object. And he or she went inside the object and described it. And the following is the target. And that concludes my talk. Okay, we have about 15 minutes.
Questions? Okay, questions. I know we have one. New York Times guy. He's a plant. He's got a question. Come on now. Oh. We'll get her to ask a question first, then we'll get to you. The media come last.
I'm not real savvy with the machinery, but did you say like the generator malfunctioned? Could that be an effect of the influence of people trying to influence it over a period of time, that it would not work right?
No, the malfunctions were from the computer. The computer crashed. The device was calibrated extensively over many, many weeks, and that was running within chance expectation.
Okay, we get this in the media. The guy that looks like he combs his hair with an egg beater.
Anyway.
You've been sleeping, haven't you?
No, I was watching. What is the precedent for using you had the pictures near the random number generator, the event generator. Why did you choose the random event generator, and why is there a precedent that the remote viewing would affect that object as opposed to something else, like with the Ingo Swan doing the shielded cork device or whatever at SIR or SRI? Sorry. Do you understand did that make any sense?
Yeah, the question was why place, I see it as two parts. Why place the target close to the random number generator, and why use a random number generator?
As something to detect rather than something that would measure, actual...
Well, I was using the random number generator because that was the device that I had available. I think we could use a variety of devices. There are lots of measuring devices that are reported to be able to detect human consciousness, such as the experiments that were done at the ASPR.
Oh, goodness, back.
Yeah, the previous studies set the precedent for
Mr.
the current
President.
experiment.
Oh, okay. No, she
Okay. And why I placed the targets in close proximity to the REG.
That's obvious, but I was
Okay.
just wondering why.
Yeah, there
why
were
choosing that as
precedents,
your-
and that was the equipment that I had to
Okay.
hand, that I had available.
Go back to sleep now. Yes. Okay. All right. Who else do we have here? Come on. She's got answers for everything.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. We have this man. Yep. You got a question, don't you?
Sure. Well, in terms of hardware, because that's actually my background more or less, you were mentioning other devices. Do you want to sort of cite your favorite version of devices that could be used to measure, especially for those that are looking for quantum artifacts? That'd be my most interesting area.
Yeah, there is the random number generator that I used, which is a true random number generator. There are also other random number generators. There's one being developed called Windsong that I would like to get and calibrate and perhaps use that in a subsequent experiment. Perhaps there are some that are light sensitive. There are lots of ways that we could perhaps try and detect non-local consciousness.
So you're looking at the photomultiplier tube. Sorry. You're looking at the photomultiplier tube photon capture as another mechanism.
There were some studies done in Germany using a photomultiplier, looking at a photon detection experiment. But this was they were PKers affecting the output of photons from a plant that was used in a separate experiment.
Oh, makes sense to me. Okay.
I'm might have missed something, but
This is Pam.
how many sessions did they do on that target?
They did one session per viewer per day. And they just had one day, they had one opportunity.
Okay. Got a question over here, and this is not Pam.
You know, the issue of the envelope being near the detecting device at first seems obvious, but at least to me, it isn't clear that if I'm a remote viewer, that I would go to that location. Maybe I would go to my own feedback time.
That's true. The feedback time could be the focus for the viewer, but their instruction was to remote view a target in a sealed envelope that was placed in the office of the experimenter at that particular day that they were going to view and the particular time they were going to view. That was specifically the instructions. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we gotta go over here. As they say, put your arm down, you won the war. Okay. Here we have, and then we have another one back there.
Hi, Angela. Is it known or is it established in the literature if a person can detect another person remote viewing them as opposed to a machine?
Only anecdotally. People say that they can, some people say they can detect another person remote viewing them. As of yet, we have no study that studies this or has examined this.
Okay. We have someone here.
I understand you correctly, you're going to be continuing to crunch some numbers on this?
I would like to, yes, I'm going to continue crunching numbers.
You're going to get rid of those 2 outliers?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to get rid of the 2 outliers?
I will do some statistics excluding the 2 outliers, yes.
Okay. And here we have another one.
You had mentioned the different remote viewing modalities. Did anyone prove to be more significant than others in terms of accuracy of data?
There were, regarding the types of remote viewing, CRV, ERV, that was not analyzed because of you have to have an equal number of elements in each measuring device. So you had to have equal numbers of CRVers, TRVers, ERVers. We didn't have enough numbers to do any meaningful analysis of that yet. Perhaps in the future.
All right, you again. God, I thought we put you back to sleep. Hold on a second here.
The secondary goal of the study was to evaluate the different training methods and which one worked out best. Do you have any conclusions on that yet?
No, as again, this study only had 25 subjects, so
Okay.
we really didn't have enough data
Yeah,
to
have anything
evaluate that.
statistically
Yeah.
important. Okay.
All right, good, great. Okay, we got some more, right? Yep, got another one over here. Boy, I love this. I got a future in television, don't I? You know what I do? Hey, well, I heard that. Here you go.
Thank you. You said you used this generator. You didn't, I don't recall clearly whether you say what effect there was on what you did have. Am I clear on what I'm saying?
Yeah, the subjects were unaware of the generator running in the office.
Well, I understand that, but you didn't say what the effects were.
The effects were inconclusive. What I found was that overall, if you took all of the 7 subjects and you looked at their data collectively, it didn't differ from the data that was collected when the viewers were not there. But within the data were several individuals who had an effect. But if you looked at the overall data, there was no effect. That was the effect on the generator. The generator produced an outline, produces a graph where you have a single line across the page, and normally if you're just running it in a calibration mode, it will wander around that central line in a chance walk. It'll go up and down. If you have an effect on the generator, the effect will be that it will deviate away from that line either in the high direction or the low direction. And what I found was even when viewers were not viewing the target, the days that the viewers were not viewing, we still had those effects.
Okay.
It deviated.
2 more questions. We're going to get the one back here, and then we'll go back to Mr. Media.
Angela, in the sessions where you did observe a deviation in the random generator, were those, how did they correlate with the percentage of accurate statements in the transcripts?
That hasn't been evaluated yet. As I said, we're still number crunching, and we still need to do a fair bit of Well, no, I don't. Sorry. I was just looking at group data for this first cut.
Okay, we got the media question here. I have to get in proper attire for the media.
That was my question too, but I also wanted to add to that, is there any correlation with the outliers, the well-traveled remote viewers who had logged, thousands of hours, and a correspondence with the peaks in the...
Again, I haven't
RNG?
looked at individual. I was just looking at major, group data at this moment, so I've not looked at individuals within the database. That will come in the later analysis.